Controlled supermajority state where Republicans control the state House of Representatives and the state Senate and the governor's mansion. Who is to blame when things are not going the right way? We would submit here at Ohio Gun Owners that if Republicans are in control and have the statistical and numeric superiority over the Democrats in their totality, in other words, they don't have to rely on Democrats to do a single thing, then it is the Republican Party that is to blame. Welcome into this short video here, everybody. I'm Chris Dorr. I'm the director here for Ohio Gun Owners. And in this short video, I'm going to talk about a very recent post from Representative Heidi Workman in which these people are deliberately manipulating the truth, aka lying to gun voters in order to get out from the responsibility that they hold for refusing to fix Ohio's gun laws and remove the restrictions on owning suppressors, SBRs, and short-barreled shotguns. So with that, I'm just going to jump right into it here. And I'm going to pop up this post from Representative Workman from earlier today. It's probably hard for you to read it on your mobile phone or whatever you're watching this on right now. So I am going to read through it in its entirety. And I'm going to show you very quickly how she's not telling the truth in order to try to avoid taking responsibility for joining the Democrats to vote no on removing Ohio's restrictions on SBRs, suppressors, and short-barreled shotguns. So with that, I'm going to leave it up there for you. If you guys can read it, you guys can read along with me. This is from Heidi Workman from today. Today is what, the 17th? I don't know. I don't have a calendar here handy. But Heidi Workman says, when I ran for office, I was reminded that politics has two types, crusaders and crooks. Well, there is a lot of crooked politicians. This week, she says, my name has been attacked by the Ohio gun owners looking to pad their pockets from my work in Columbus. She says, I've had plenty of exposure to these types who hide behind righteous causes and roll in massive profits. The Dorr brothers, I'm one of several brothers who do state level gun rights politics. The Dorr brothers have perfected the scam in many states. They're wolves in sheep's clothing hiding behind a righteous two-way cause. I'm going to read through it its entirety and then I'll come back. She says, I made the pledge 2 years ago and I'll make it again. I work for the people I represent, not lobbyists. I strongly support the Second Amendment and am proud to co-sponsor legislation protecting gun owners' rights. But again, there's that but no lobbying group gets a blank check on my vote. The issue here, Representative Gross didn't follow the rules of the House, so the amendment in question was tabled. We never voted on the policy, which I support, some of which I have co-sponsored. We voted to table it because the rules of the House were not followed. My principles don't change under pressure, she says. I came to Columbus to do my job, understand the bills I vote on, and make decisions based on what I believe is right, not because a lobbyist demands a vote or threatens political retaliation. I'll continue defending the Second Amendment and fighting for the people who sent me to Columbus to serve. And when Senate Bill, listen to this, and when Senate Bill 214 comes across the House floor following the proper rules, I am a resounding yes. So I'm going to unpack this for you here for just a few minutes. On January 22nd of last year, I'm going to see if I can pop this. I'm going to pop this rules vote up here. I don't have it actually. Anyway, you guys can go to the House Journal and look this up. The House Journal for January 22nd of 2025. In the rules, it very clearly says that floor amendments to existing bills are permitted. Okay, it's one of the rules that they voted yes on January 22nd of last year. Amendments, if you're going to file them on existing legislation, both parties do this all the time. There's requirements for that. They have to be filed in the clerk's office, within a defined set of time before a day's legislation. And Representative Jennifer Gross did exactly that. She followed the rules of the House, the very rules that Heidi Workman herself voted on January 22nd of 2025. Maybe you guys can see that there. It's too much to see from that camera angle. So the point here is that Heidi Workman agreed to the rules of the House when she voted yes on January 22nd of 2025 last year. The rules were followed by Representative Gross when she filed the Freedom to Carry Act amendment onto House Bill 667. I was there personally in the State House when Representative Gross filed that amendment. She was there on time. Actually, it was her legislative aide. He filed it on time, and that is also allowed within House rules. But you don't have to take my word for it. Here she is saying that we voted to table because the rules of the House were not followed. But if that was the case, Speaker Huffman himself would have said so from the dais, but he didn't. And I want you guys to hear this for yourselves because it's very important. You're going to hear these words come out of the speaker from the front. Jennifer Gross is going to stand up and she's going to say, "I move to amend." And then Speaker Huffman is going to say, "You are in order." I'm going to let the video play for just a minute after that, just so you guys can kind of get a picture, an idea who Representative Jennifer Gross is. And you'll also notice right over Representative Gross's right-hand shoulder, you'll also see Heidi Workman sitting there. But listen for yourselves to what Speaker Huffman says.
Thank you. Representative Chair recognizes Representative Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to amend with amendment number 1363085.
Amendments in order. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of this amendment to Sub-House Bill 667. I want to be direct about why this amendment is necessary. Sub-House Bill 667 deals with public safety. It deals with what happens when dangerous people are not properly tracked, supervised, or held accountable. These are serious issues, but public safety also means making sure law-abiding gun owners and Ohioans are able to protect themselves without being trapped by confusing and outdated gun laws.
That amendment was tailor-made to prepare Ohio for the event that a federal court would strike down the NFA requirements for registration requirements for owning an SBR, a suppressor, or a short-barreled shotgun. And what Jennifer Gross just said there at the end of that introduction, and she went on to further describe the amendment, but it was very clear that it was designed for a time that Ohio is in, such as right now, when all these other Republican-controlled states across the country are able to go in and buy suppressors and SBRs with simple 4473 forms. It's at that point. So the point is the amendment was in order. The speaker acknowledged that it was in order. He said so with his own words. And it's important to note that the sub bill House Bill 667, that was also a Public Safety Committee bill. Okay, it came out of the House Public Safety Committee. The Public Safety Committee is where the Freedom to Carry Act, the Ohio Second Amendment Protection Act, and the Ohio Self-Defense Act are all being blocked by the speaker. So it's a very appropriate piece of legislation. House Bill 667, it's a very appropriate piece of legislation because it was from the same committee dealing with public safety. That's what the Second Amendment is all about. Public safety. So it's in order. The speaker said so himself. We have a Republican supermajority. We don't need Democrats to vote any piece of legislation through the chamber. And that is when Representative, let me pop her picture up here, Representative Marilyn John, right here above me, stood up. Now you can see right there, or maybe you can't, maybe it's cut off, but Marilyn John is the House Majority Floor Leader. She is the one that manages legislation from the House. She is also the Speaker's #1 stooge in leadership to make sure that amendments that the Speaker doesn't want do not make it to the House floor for a vote. And so Marilyn John, right here, this lady, stood up and she made a motion to table the amendment. Now, what's important there is she did not say, I question the germaneness of this amendment. No, if the amendment was out of order, that's what would have happened right then. She would have stood up and said, I question the germaneness of this amendment and asked for a ruling from the chair. She did not. She stood up and made a tabling motion, which in the Ohio House of Representatives is a killing amendment, or a kill motion. It's to stop the legislation from moving forward, to basically take that amendment, lay it on the table, and not consider it again. This is all stuff that you guys can confirm yourselves. You can go to the House rules, and you can go to the journal for that day. You can read through the House rules and confirm this stuff for yourself. I'm not asking you to believe me on any of these things. So Marilyn John here, this lady, stood up. She made a motion to table the amendment, to kill the amendment. And that is when the Democrats leaped to their feet to vote no, yes on killing the amendment. And I want to pop this up here for you. You will see this is the actual vote, the tabling vote to kill the Freedom to Carry Act. And thus make sure that Ohio kept its restrictions on owning SBRs and suppressors and short-barreled shotguns on the books. If again, this is probably hard for you guys to see where you are right now, but I just want to read through some of these names and pop up some of the faces of the Democrats that Heidi Workman joined with in order to kill this amendment. So first of all, we have Ismail Mohammed here. This guy is a Somali. He should not be allowed to even hold office in the state of Ohio because there's all kinds of videos out there where he openly says that he's working with, what's her name? Congresswoman from Minnesota who married her brother, Ilhan Omar. He's openly working with other Somalians in order to leverage and take advantage of American taxpayers to send resources back home to another country. Ismail Muhammad voted to kill the amendment just like Heidi Workman did. So did this lovely lady, Munira Abdullah, another person who should probably not be allowed to hold office in Ohio because she's serving other interests instead of true Americans. There's a whole crap ton more of them in here. Representative Danny Isaacson, he's one of the Democrat minority leaders. He might be the actual Democrat minority leader right now. I'd have to go back and check on that. Andrea White, another one of these rhino Republicans who exists explicitly to try to sabotage pro-gun bills. Clarence, where is he at in here? Not Clarence Thomas, Cecil Thomas, wrong guy. Cecil Thomas is the author of the red flag gun confiscation legislation in the Ohio House. That's one of the people who joined Heidi Workman to vote to kill the Freedom to Carry Act amendment. I could go through here for a very long time, but this is an example of the type of people that Heidi Workman paired up with to vote this amendment down. And here's the worst part about the whole thing. When the amendment vote happened, when the tabling motion vote happened, these Democrats were clapping and cheering. They were clapping and cheering when Marilyn John stood up. You can, if you go back and listen to the audio of the day or watch the video, you can hear in the background laughing and cackling and cheering from these radical left communists as Marilyn John made that tabling motion because they knew that she was doing their dirty work to stop this piece of fabulous pro-gun legislation. The Democrats, the gun-grabbing Democrats, were not sitting there with praise and adulation for Heidi Workman and Marilyn John that they were upholding the procedural rules of the House. No, the Democrats run amendments all the time that get killed by tabling amendments. No, they were happy that Republicans in the supermajority were voting down the amendment that would have removed Ohio's restrictions on owning SBRs and suppressors and short-barreled, shotguns. Another thing I'll point out here is that by making that tabling motion, Marilyn John wasn't, it's not like they were saying, okay, let's discuss this amendment and then let's vote it down on the amendment's merits. No, she was Marilyn John, and by extension, and with her vote, Heidi Workman and many others, they were cutting off debate on the entire topic from the outset. So they didn't want to hear it. The amendment was filed in order on time, using the correct procedures according to the House rules that they all voted yes on, and the Democrats were just ecstatic that Republicans killed the amendment for them. There's something else we need to talk about here with regards to with Representative Workman. It is a widely known fact, and the rumors are flying all over the State House that she wants to be in leadership next year. Well, the number one qualification to be in Ohio House Republican leadership, if it's under Speaker Matt Huffman, is you have to be a full-blown button-pushing yes man or yes woman for the Speaker. Had Representative Workman and many other Republicans, had they gone against the Speaker in that very moment and said, you know what, this is the first major gun rights legislation we've had a chance to vote on. I'm just going to go ahead and vote yes on it because I campaigned for it. I co-sponsored it. I told my district I was pro-gun. Had she done that, it would have instantly removed her from the chance of being part of Speaker Huffman's leadership team next year when some of the current leadership team terms out. So you can skin this thing 6 different ways from Sunday, but the fact of the matter is that when people like Heidi Workman, and of course here, I'll pop this back up here again, anytime they try to get out from under pressure, they always post pictures of themselves shooting a firearm. Barack Obama was the most famous example of this. He had his shotgun. He was out there on the clay target range, and trying to convince people that he wasn't an absolute raging communist who wanted to confiscate every single one of our guns. So that's exactly what Heidi Workman did here. She posts this picture of herself shooting an AR-15. But the fact is, if she wanted that AR-15 there to be a short-barreled rifle, a little bit shorter in length than that one, or if she wants to slap a suppressor on the end of that AR-15, it's very important to note she doesn't have a suppressor on the end of that rifle. And if she wanted to do that by not submitting to the tyranny of the NFA registration process, well, that would be illegal right now in Ohio because Ohio law still has its own restrictions in place on owning a suppressor or SBR. You still have to go through the humiliation process of being tracked, traced, and registered by the ATF for simply owning these things, which should be legal for everybody to own, let alone the paperwork. So I wanted you guys to see what's going on here. She says that she was told that when she got into politics, there's 2 types of people, crusaders and crooks. Well, she's clearly not a crusader for the Second Amendment when she joins Democrats to vote no on removing the Ohio's restrictions on owning SBRs and suppressors. That's not a crusader. A crusader does what's right, and they vote to remove those restrictions. I guess the question is up to you guys to decide how to answer that. But one thing I wanted to go right back to really quick was the list of representatives who did vote the right way, and there is a slew of them. Representative Tim Barhorst, Representative Ron Ferguson. This is a guy who Matt Huffman spent $1 million to try to axe out in the last Republican primary. Representative Johnson, Representative Brian Lorenz, Representative Mullins, Representative Michelle Teska, Jamie Callender, Tex Fisher, Andrew Matthews, Thad Claggett, Representative Gross, Jennifer Gross, the sponsor of the amendment, Gene Schmidt, Jason Stevens, the former speaker, Levi Dean, Thomas Hall, Beth Lear, Representative DJ Swearingen, all of those people voted the right way. There's more on that list too. They all voted the right way because they know at the end of the day, anytime a piece of gun legislation comes to the floor that restores the Second Amendment in a major way, that removes Ohio's restrictions on owning these fantastic tools to defend ourselves, not to go deer hunting, but to defend ourselves from tyrants and criminals, you gotta vote yes. You gotta vote yes, especially when the amendment was filed in accordance with House rules, on time, in the correct building, as a public safety amendment onto another public safety bill. It doesn't get more according to House rules than that. It is totally permitted. It is totally legal. These Republicans all voted yes on allowing that method of advancing legislation. And I wanted you guys to know this information because there is a full court press right now. You notice in her post right here, and I'm just gonna slash it to the side now. You notice in her post that she didn't actually explain how it violated the House rules. Instead, what she did was she went right on to the ad hominem attacks against myself and my brothers and the great work that we do in a lot of different states. The reason why there are so many people out there that hate the Door Brothers and then resort to the ad hominem scamming accusations is because we run the only gun rights organizations in the country that are willing to call out Republicans for their betrayals of the Second Amendment when they have the legislative power to protect those freedoms. That, at the end of the day, is what Representative Gross, or what Representative Workman, what Representative Abrams, Representative White, all of these Republicans, trans Republicans, sometimes they're called, that's what they're the most upset about. They would prefer that I just sit there and sing the praises of the Republican Party, no matter how bad they stab gun owners in the back, and tell you all that it's the Democrats. But that would be scamming our membership, and we're never going to do that. So I wanted you to have this information so you guys know what's going on. Please share this video all over the place and realize as we gear up for these for this this coming election, these people are making it so much harder on gun owners long term because they are sabotaging the momentum and the energy from within the gun rights community to even bother to show up. People like Heidi Workman are contributing majorly to this idea of what's the point in going to vote for some of these Republicans when somebody like Heidi Workman voted exactly the same way as every one of the House Democrats. It's a valid question. I wanted you guys to have this information. Please share this video with everybody you know. And I appreciate the fact that you're willing to sit here and listen to the details and the ins and outs of this stuff, because quite frankly, it's very easy for these Republicans to try to lie to you, deliver nothing for you, and then con you